Welcome back, Airsofters. I'm JJ Moore. Today we're doing the Gen 3 Nitro from Lancer Tactical, and we're going to drop the F2 from Polarstar in it. Shout out to Polarstar for sponsoring this video. Let's go! Welcome back to my YouTube channel, guys. I'm JJ Moore. Let's get right into this video. So the goal of my video today is to show you how to install your Polarstar F2 properly and even use the Gate Titan2 if you want to. So I'm going to show you how to do it with the regular FCU and trigger board. Then I'm going to show you how to do it with the Gate Titan2. I have a lot of questions on this, so let's get them all answered. First of all, the Polarstar F2 is a dual solenoid engine, which means it has two solenoids to make its operation complete, unlike the Jack, which has a single solenoid. So one of the solenoids is going to make the nozzle move forward and backward. Actually, it's going to make it move backward. The spring actually pushes it forward. So that's the purpose of that solenoid. The other solenoid is to apply air and control the time air is applied along with how long the air is applied. So in all, that's the Polarstar F2. There is a few things to maintain it. That's a whole nother video, and it is very low maintenance. So here we go. Now, this is a new one that they just started sending out. And as you can see, it comes with the filter. Super cool, has a Polarstar logo on it. It does come apart. There's a little screen in here, an O-ring and a spring. And you could blow it out if it gets dirty or whatever. If you notice a little air volume dropping, maybe FPS, just take it apart and clean it. I did see a few videos where they fill these up with dirt and the gun still fires. So it's important because a lot of people don't protect their hose. They let it get dirt in it, and then they have a problem with the engine, and they blame it on the engine. So we're going to put this to the side. Here's how I install my lines. Even if it's an IGL, what I'll do is I'll screw it on here. And when you're screwing it on, you need to make sure that that O-ring goes into the bevel. It's actually beveled the edge of the engine right there. So the O-ring goes into a cup. If it pops out of there, it's going to leak. Now, once you get it snug, you're going to take a little small pair of needle nose, or if you have an IGL, it comes with a wrench, and just give it a little extra. Nothing crazy. It doesn't. You could probably leave it hand tight, but hooking up the line and playing can cause it to loosen, so keep that in mind. Now we're going to set that down. This is your trigger board. As you can see, it has solenoid plug. Solenoid plug, that's the main harness. This is what your trigger is going to depress to make it fire. And on the back here is your full auto switch. Now, what a lot of people do is they'll install this trigger board improperly, and when they move the selector for the first time, they'll break the switch off, and then they'll call Polarstar and say, hey, my trigger board ain't working. 9 times out of 10, it's an issue that you've caused, and it's really easy to replace, it's easy to repair, and it's easy to not do if you follow these steps. So every V2 and V3 gearbox is different. This is the Lancer Tactical Gen 3, and it's out of the Nitro, and I'm going to show you why they're all different. The selector height is different, and the fitment is different. This will fit in a lot of replicas, guys. You could literally fit this in so many replicas without doing any grinding. I found that the G&G and the Lancer rifles, it drops right in, no issues, no grinding. So what we're going to check for is, on this one, I'm actually going to leave the safety intact, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold the trigger board down with the plate forward so it's not contacting the switch, and then slowly let it come forward and make sure it's not contacting the actual bottom part of the switch here. You want to make sure it's not contacting this. If it hits this, it'll snap it off. You want it to just come across this right here and press that down every time it passes it. And that's going to turn that to full auto. So if it contacts that, the way to fix it is to take one of your gear shims that you took out of the gun anyways and wasn't going to use, and you could drop it right over that screw hole. And sometimes it takes two, and that will lift it just enough to clear that plate so you don't break your trigger board right away. So that's a key factor in installing it. You're also going to save the stock screw. That's what held down my Gen 3 MOSFET. These are really great MOSFETs, by the way, also the Nebula. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your trigger board here, you're going to tuck it in. Let me go ahead and give y'all a zoom on this so y'all could see what's going on here. A little bit more. Let's make it tight. All right, so as you can see, I have mine in place. Everything lines up, it looks good. I'm not gonna bolt it down quite yet. I wanna show y'all this other trick. So on the solenoid, you have what I call the top solenoid and the bottom solenoid. No matter where you put this engine, that's the top and that's the bottom. It's not gonna plug in like you think. The top does not go to the top and the bottom does not go to the bottom. In fact, it's opposite. Top solenoid goes to the bottom plug. Bottom solenoid goes to the top plug. This is important because your engine will work if you plug it in backwards, but it will not feed, it will not fire correctly, and it will be peace. You won't be happy with it. So if you got a V3, this is opposite. So the V3 has a plug that goes up, faces that way, and another one that goes that way. So it is literally top to top and bottom to bottom. Don't ask me how I figured that out, but all you got to do is plug it in, put some air to it, and put a battery in it and listen to it and see what it sounds like when you fire it. If you're firing it and that nozzle's not moving, or if it's not moving completely and you hear it gives like a at the end of the shot if it's improper. If it's correct, it's real smooth and snappy. It's, you know, it sounds good. So, shout out to Polarstar for including these again. I'm just amazed with it. Next is going to be the safety. A lot of customers do not care when they do HPA because they're going to unhook their air when they come off the field anyways. But a lot of them do want to have the mechanical safety still. So, there's a few ways around this. The one thing I always do is I put the Gate Titan2 in, and now I have an electronic safety. But if we love our Polarstar board, and they're great too, they don't fail, they work really well if they're installed properly, then how can we have a safety? Well, you're going to leave that bar in, and you're not going to be able to get as fine a tuning with your trigger if you want, but you still will get tuning of it, guys. So go ahead and drop in your trigger here, and as you'll see, you can get, that's going to be fire, and then when the safety bar comes down, it's going to stop about there. Well, the selector's not forward. So that's going to still fire. So you want to make sure it clears, even whenever it's in full, and then semi, and then here's safe right there. So you want safe to stop. Now, a lot of people like to tune their speed triggers really close, and they'll tune it until it's there. Well, guess what? Now there's no more safety because the safety bar can't pass that. If you're crafty and you're really comfortable with doing technical stuff and you do it like I do every day, what you can do is hook up your battery, and you can literally, I'm going to show you what to do. Okay, so let's just go backward for a second. I forgot to show you the main harness. The main harness needs to go, I literally bend it like this, up, and the little notch right here. Focus, guys, focus. This little notch right here is going to go up. It's a one-way plug. You can't plug it in backwards. You could try to force it, but don't. So you bend it up, and you're going to put a little bend like this in it. Now, what that's going to allow you to do is to clear the solenoid switch, and you're just going to lightly squeeze this. Don't go crazy because you can break this off. I've broke them before. It's been a long time, but I've broke them. And now if you look at this, you'll see that I'm clearing my solenoid plug there, and that's in a good position. So since we're running HPA, we don't have to come all down through here if we don't want to. We're going to come right here, and we're going to go right out the back. So this one's rear wired, so it's going to go out the stock. And when you put your air line down, it's going to hold that down. Now, the only question we have is where's the center pin and where's the rear pin? We want to make sure we don't puncture these wires or tear them when we put this pin in and we put that rear pin in. So what I do is I grab these two solenoid wires and I give them a pinch right here. And that's going to ensure that they stay where I put them. And I kind of train them a little. You know, you could train them. It's like your hair. If you comb it a certain way every day, it's going to stay that way. So keep that in mind. Now, back to the speed trigger. Sorry about that. So we want to tune our speed trigger to be as short as possible because we're speed softers and we love to have a short trigger. So what we're going to do that is we're going to hook up our battery. And right now we're on full auto, which is no big deal. But we're going to put our trigger in, and we're going to simulate the trigger being in the replica. So we're going to say we want to tune this thing. So we're going to get an Allen, and we're going to start tuning it to where we want it. So right about there is where I would tune it to. So now I'm going to bring this up and look at it. So why won't my safety go in? Well, it's too long. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to hold it right here, right where I think it's going to be. And then I'm going to mark it. So I'm going to mark this right here with a Sharpie, a little silver Sharpie. And then I'm going to take the safety bar off, and I'm going to grind that in flat. And now it'll swing up, and it'll be a functionable safety. So it does take a little work, but it can be done. So that's your way around your safety. All right, guys. Now, we just got it all installed, and we want to know where to tune it at. Well, that's going to vary on your barrel length. That's going to vary on what kind of air seal you have. Do you have a good air seal? Do you have a bad air seal? There's a bunch of variables, and I can make tons of videos on this. But there is a good go-to setting that I go to for a regular M4, 10 inches or 13 inches. And what I usually do, so I'm indoor, so I turn my rate of fire up to 30. So I go to RF, bump it up to 30. It comes at 18. You want your CB off. You go to your DR, and 22 is a good starting point. Polarstar puts really good settings in here out the box. Your DN, that's your nozzle dwell, you're going to leave it at 14. Your DP, 25. So what this is going to do here is this is going to cause your poppet dwell to cycle a little faster if you go down on it. So I usually run it at about 16. And that's just because whenever you pull the trigger and you want to get a speed trigger and you want to make it real snappy and fast, that lets it cycle a little faster. Now, you may lose a little FPS there, but it might not even be noticeable. If you go too low on your DP now, your FPS is going to tremendously drop. Your DR, we're going to bring that down to 14. That's where I run mine at. I got 14, 14, and 16, and then rate of fire at 30. So we're going to do a shooting test on this when we're done, but first I want to show you how to install the Gate Titan2, and then I'm sure you guys know how to install it back in the replica. If not, I could always drop in a video for you guys, but if you're this deep into your replica, I feel like you could put it in and take it out, you know. I will show you how to line up your two pins. You need to put your rear pin and your center pin in before you do anything else. Don't ever put your grip on and your stock on before these two pins are set. This is what centers the gearbox and what makes it comfortable in here. If it's not comfortable, the gearbox will be left, right, it could be up, down. And I'd also sometimes will make little flat shims and put under here to lift the front, and it sits right there. You could take a piece of super glue and a little thin piece of plastic and just glue it there. Also, sometimes we put them in the back. So against your spring guide, you would put a washer here, and that will also push the gearbox forward if you need the gearbox to come down in the front. So at this point, what I would have done is I would put my trigger in. I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys what I would do. I'm going to make sure my engine's locked in, and then I would close it up here. And as I'm closing it up, I would gently make sure that everything's comfortable to where I don't have to cut any wires, pinch anything, and always make sure the engine's free. Now, as you can see in this gearbox shell, now when I tighten this up, you want to make sure this is all tight. If you have to tighten this down with screws, you will break something and it's not proper. Squeeze it closed with your hands. If that's tight all the way around, you're good to go. Now you can put your screws in, snug a couple of them up across from each other. And whenever you do that, it's gonna get everything set and settled. And then you can go ahead and come back around and re-torque them all. But say I put this all together and my Polarstar is doing this when everything's tight. Well, then you need to get on Polarstar's page and you need to message them. And they actually have little brass shims that go around these in different sizes. And what it does is it makes it fit the gearbox a little tighter. So look that up. That's called a shim. It's a gearbox shim for your engine. Look that up, guys, and grab some of those. They're very handy for installing your Polarstar so you don't get any movement of it. So now we're going to go ahead and take this out, and I'm going to show you how to put the Titan2 in. A lot of people have been asking me, how does this work? They've never seen it before, and always grab these right here by the plug like I'm doing, or you could tear them also. That's a little tip I can help you guys with. All right, so here's the Gate Titan2. Gates went out and created something that's super cool and makes it really easy for us to get super, really good programming and great trigger response, and also use it from your Apple Watch, which is